Welcome to Back from the Abyss, where we bring you stories of hope and healing, recovery and redemption. I'm Dr. Craig Heacock, your host and resident psychiatrist. Names and some details have been changed in these stories to maintain confidentiality. I do a lot of addiction work in my practice, and I often try to rank in my head which are the hardest addictions to overcome, with IV opioids usually being at the top. But then every time I start working with a new patient with an eating disorder, I'm reminded that there's actually a type of addiction which is even harder to overcome than any drugs or alcohol. Today, we hear Ellie's story, a 30-year battle with bulimia and despair and near death, and, at the end, healing. Ellie grew up in rural Montana, at first going to school in a one-room schoolhouse, then moving to the in-town school, just as she entered the socially and physically awkward adolescent years.
My parents did finally convince me to go to town for school, and it did change things for the better initially, I think. I made friends and stuff. And then suddenly I was surrounded by young women, girls who we were all in different stages of puberty and whatnot. And again, my body, but more as a sexualized version of my body became like a priority in that group. I mean, when the girls were always touching each other, pinching each other, and I was already super self-conscious and aware of my physical space, and it was made very clear to me that I did not I was not a desirable person, and that there were parts of my body that were very repulsive or repellent to both those girls and some of the boys in the class. And I had already been dabbling a little bit with dieting and stuff, like stealing my mom's Dexatrim and trying to sneak Slim Fast for lunch. But I really did not know. I mean, I knew that I needed to change my body, and I didn't know how. And I mean, I remember I posted my ideal weight all around our house, literally on every cupboard, on the mirrors, and through the living room, it was everywhere. And then I was really, really invested in trying to, I was going to get in shape and be beautiful and all of this stuff. And, nothing changed because I was at that point 12, and, bodies, I guess, just don't respond that way at that age. And then my cousin moved in with us, who was my age, same grade, and really beautiful, spectacular, interesting, eccentric girl. My sister was also super gregarious and outgoing, and so I was with these two, and I really started to struggle because I felt my cousin immediately fit in our class. I mean, she was the center of attention all of the time, and we had been best friends up until that point. And she slept in my room with me, and just the degree to which she, I think, was accepted. And my sister was really flourishing, and I was still back, most people not paying attention to me and trying to figure out how to fit in. That I really started to struggle again, and I became super anxious and weirdly afraid of things. And at night I'd be up all night because I would think that something was in my closet, which didn't feel appropriate for being that age, and just sad and invisible. And my parents worked at a mine that was 2 hours away, so I mean they were not around.
You were alone a lot.
Yeah a lot.
And did your cousin and your sister see what was happening? I'm just imagining your ideal weight posted around the house, and you're becoming more sad and Sounds like withdrawn and fearful and...
Yeah, I think that yeah, they definitely noticed it. And I want to be clear that I'm very close to both of them now. I considered my cousin and my sister my best friends, but that was a different time in our lives. And they thought that was pretty funny, I think, and kind of pathetic. And as I sort of became more isolated, they both sort of fell into this group that in my interactions with them, I was always really embarrassed of myself and probably a little ashamed.
I'm guessing that time, that era, that place, the zero awareness of eating disorders.
Oh, God. Yeah. No.
Here you were starting to develop a full-blown eating disorder, body loathing, and with very obvious signs, but no context to understand what that was.
Yeah, I think that's true, and so that started happening at that same time. My parents both quit smoking, and my mother gained a lot of weight, and that became a focus in our household. And I was really afraid of things getting worse for me in terms of what I looked like, and so I don't really even understand like how this trajectory happened. I don't remember, but my cousin and I began fighting more and more and more, and it was really emotional. It was in this really small space. I mean, we shared a tiny bedroom in like the trailer thing that we lived in, and this one night we were fighting, and I just remember I was crying, and she was, called me something, and that was it. Like, my parents were at a party in a town that was like 30 miles away, and we were all home alone. And so I went, my cousin was actually taking Prozac, which was like, no one knew what that was, and none of us knew why, but I knew it was like a powerful thing. And so I went and I got her Prozac, and I got a bottle of Tylenol, and I remember I stood in front of her and just started taking all of those and saying, like, look at me, look at me. And she wouldn't. And I took and I ingested a bottle of Prozac and a bottle of Tylenol. And
in front of her.
Yeah. With no consequence, until I realized, like, holy shit, like, my parents are not here. I am in the middle of nowhere, and I'm gonna die. Like, I have no, like, I mean, I understood, like, I had just, like, I was committing suicide. And I became very frightened, and I showed her. I was like, look at what I've done. And she finally acknowledged me, and she said, oh shit, we've got to get it out. And she got out a spoon and took me to the bathroom and showed me how to make myself throw up. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't get anything up, and it was really painful and scary. I was starting to get really scared, and I had to call my parents at this party and tell them that I had taken a bunch of pills and I needed to go to the hospital. And I could just hear my dad. I was talking to my dad, and his voice was just shaking with something. I wasn't really sure, but I had to call. He told me to call this woman, Marlene, who was the lunch lady at the one room school, to come and get me.
Wow. That's rural 911.
Yeah,
lunch lady.
Yeah, for sure. So she did. She came and she got me, and she took me into town to the hospital, and they pumped my stomach and all of this stuff, which is really unpleasant if you haven't experienced it. And finally, my parents got there, and they came in, and my mom looked at me and started crying, and then she ran out of the room. And my dad looked at me and he said, "How could you do this to your mother? Shame on you. How could you do this to your mother?" And I hadn't done anything to my mother, I mean, I just remember that face. And
I mean, it sounds like, Ellie, you were already filling with shame. And then your dad just pours a whole other truckload of shame right on you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because it became, I mean, again, it wasn't about me or what I might be or like what was clearly something, if ever there's a flag that something's wrong, like walking into a hospital with your 12-year-old having their stomach pumped, would be it, I would think. And it wasn't about me at all.
Did anything change for you after that?
Yeah, because I realized, I mean, there were two things. Like I was put into counseling with this with a man called Mark, who had a crazy like permed mullet and a mustache. Like he looked like a early 70s porn star or something. He was so ridiculous. And that experience was terrible. I hated him so much. And so there was that, I mean, just this resentment that that's what came out of it, was I had to sit in this room with this man who would tell me things like, if I didn't turn myself around, I'd be dead by suicide at 18, or they'd put me in Rivendell, which was the like psychiatric hospital for juveniles. And so I really started to, I think, see myself as like, I'm clearly like really troubled, and there's no fixing me.
Eating disorders develop as a coping strategy, much like opioids or alcohol or cutting. And at first, the purging and restricting behaviors can work, just as drugs or alcohol or cutting can initially provide great relief. But over time, these toxic coping strategies lose their efficacy, inevitably leading to more and more extreme behaviors.
At the same time, I had also had this, I mean, in that encounter, I had this serendipitous moment where I learned how to purge. It didn't work that time, but as I was thinking, nothing had worked so far in terms of changing my body, and it occurred to me like, well, if I can figure out how to do that, then I mean, I can eat like everybody else, and then just do this thing, and then I'm not ingesting any calories, right? So I will be thin, and so that's what I did, and that's what happened. I lost weight. I did. People started to know. I mean, it was. I mean, I hate to say it, but it was great. I mean, it worked. Like, I mean, I felt like I looked better. People were telling me that I looked better. People were paying attention to me. Nate asked me to the 8th grade dance, which was like, give me a break. Like, he was like super popular. And it was really good for the rest of that year. Really good. Except for that it didn't take long for that to be, I purge at every meal. And he said, then I would get hungry, right? And so I would eat, and then I would have to do it again. And things were, I mean, I didn't feel so great, right? And I mean, at that time, with my being so young, there were so many obvious signs, I think, that was going on. I mean, I broken blood vessels all around my eyes, like freckles, like purple freckles everywhere. I had scabs and scars all over my hands.
But again, people didn't have a language for it. I mean, or do you think, your parents were gone so much, did they not notice something was wrong with you? Or again, was there just no sort of understanding in that time, that place for what you were going through?
Well, so here's a funny thing. My my mom is like a mega fan of Days of Our Lives, and she would record it on VHS for us to all watch at dinner together. So that was a really fun family bonding experience. And at that time, a character on Days of Our Lives, Sammy, developed an eating disorder. She was bulimic. I mean, that was a plot line, like a major plot line. And so we'd watch this at dinner, and then I would be like, I gotta go to the bathroom, so I'll see you in like 20 minutes or whatever. And I've talked to my mom since then, and just asked her, like, did you really not notice anything? And she's said to me, well, we suspect, I mean, it seemed like maybe there were connections, and, I mean, Sammy pulled out of it in a couple of weeks. So, I mean, it's just a phase, right?
It's just a phase.
And it was not just a phase by any stretch. I mean, I'm almost 42 now. And I've been what they call behavior free. If anything related to like what you do in an eating disorder, they call behaviors in the therapy world. And I've been only mostly behavior free for probably 3 years.
In high school, Ellie's father was in a devastating car accident and eventually lost his job, leading Ellie's parents to move out of state for work and leave her and her younger sister to basically fend for themselves.
Solution was that my mom moved to Wyoming with my dad, and my sister and I moved into our own house in town on our own, like completely. Like we paid the rent. We both had jobs. We paid the rent for the house.
Were you both in high school?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. I was a junior and my sister was a freshman. So, and we had already, she and I were both like dabbling in drugs. Like, we were smoking a lot of pot and drinking and stuff. But then once we were on our own in that environment, then that's when like meth hit rural America. For me, so the first time that I did it, again, it was so great because and by that time in my eating disorder, I was purging as you would, but I was also really abusing laxatives, and I was physically in a really bad way. And it was horrifying. And so when I discovered what then we just called crank, I didn't have an appetite, so I didn't have to eat. I felt very extroverted and connected to people. So I was like talking all the time and making new friends. My teachers were like really excited about my contributions to class. Again, it was like, well, this is actually pretty cool, right? But then what that meant, being the kids in town that had a home on our own, was that our house became a sort of focal point in that scene. And so some really shady folks started hanging around. And I mean, I was 16, sister's 14. And like we had dudes with like names like Wild Bill and stuff like showing up at our house at like 2 a.m. with like, drugs they wanted to, sell through kids we knew, and, or they wanted to do drugs with us. And so we were just fully enmeshed in that. And I had been saving for college, because I knew I wanted to get the fuck out of there. And I knew we didn't have any money my parents weren't going to pay for me to go to college. And I spent every penny that I had saved on drugs that year. And then did things like stole from the till at the theater I worked at and whatnot to buy more drugs. And
the meth took the place of your eating disorder, at least for a while.
For a while it did, yeah. Until it just didn't kind of do the same things, the benefits sort of wore off, and then I was mostly just tweaked out all the time, and I was super stressed out, just because of all the illegality around our home and in our home, and I mean, things were just getting really fucked up. Excuse my language, my boyfriend was really addicted to meth, and he got really violent, and so in my stress, the answer was I started binging and purging. It was like, okay, like I know how to do this, like, and it felt cathartic, and then I'd be exhausted afterwards, so I would sleep, which felt really good. So the two became enmeshed again, and
but it sounds like maybe you were starting to see that meth wasn't sustainable,
definitely,
in a way that perhaps the eating disorder might be.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I knew that I was not gonna, I would not be going to college, if things continued that way. I just kind of stuck with my eating disorder instead.
So college saved you from meth?
College saved me from meth.
Although I guess maybe your eating disorder did too. You swapped one awful thing for another.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And the one, going to college, is far more functional and useful. If I had a lot of time on my hands, and when I filled up my time, if I was really stressed out, it was a good way to relax, I guess. I could I could be among all these people and eat whatever I wanted to. So I seemed like I was really unattached to like I wasn't your typical girl. Like I'd go ahead and eat like my hamburger and part of yours too. And people are like, wow, it's so cool how you're not you're not like other girls. Yeah, well, so I have to go to the bathroom and I'll see you in 10 minutes, and so it did a lot for me in college too, for a while.
Eating disorders are a type of addiction, but arguably a much harder addiction to overcome than meth or heroin, because you can never really leave your drug of choice behind. You have to find some way to come to peace with food.
Every day I would wake up and I would say, okay, so today is the day that I am not going to do this anymore. So everything's going to be good. So if I'm not going to purge, because I struggled primarily with bulimia, I probably can't eat breakfast, because I don't want to set the with having the urge to engage in behaviors, as they would say. So I'm not going to eat breakfast. So then it's 10 o'clock and I'm super hungry. So then I eat, and I sit in sort of like white knuckle things, like, okay, I'm gonna do something else. Go for a walk, whatever. And then it's lunchtime. And so I'm supposed to eat again. And generally, I mean, at that time of my life, I was out on the town a lot. So maybe I meet a friend for lunch, but then I can't, like, I don't want to order something that makes me look like I'm like on a diet or something. Like, I don't want to be the like lettuce only lady or whatever. So I order something that I know I will not be able to keep in. And I tell myself I'm only going to eat like half of it, and then, that'll be okay because, by the end of the day, I'm also going to go for a run, so everything's going to be fine there. And then, of course, I eat all of it because I'm super hungry, and so then I have to purge.
And compensate later with exercise.
Yes. Yep. So then I would go, that's really when I started like getting into exercise stuff. So then going for a run, then maybe going to the gym. Then, I worked at I always worked in movie theaters in high school and college and after that. So then I would go to work, and I would tell myself, okay, like I probably shouldn't eat for the rest of the day, like just because of everything that was going on before. And then, of course, I would be surrounded by food that was like not safe food for me. And so the theater was housed in a restaurant also. So you had to, the counter was over on the left, and then like the bar and restaurant was here, and the hall to the theater. So the restaurant and the theater had a shared restroom with multiple stalls. And so I couldn't go in there because I didn't want like patrons to hear, or like, God forbid, like someone that I worked with or knew to come in there. So I would have to go upstairs to the projection booth with like a bunch of like soda cups and whatnot, and then hide those all around the booth and hope that I remembered to, find them again at the end of the night, so that I could dispose of them. And then I would go out after work and go out drinking with my friends. And then I would walk to Safeway, where I would then like shoplift a bunch of like cookies. And I mean just like seriously, like, I mean, if you can even like going into the bakery area drunk and like taking like slices of cheesecake out of the and shoving them into my coat pocket. Like, my coat pockets were just disgusting. And then go home.
It kind of sounds like what drug addicts might do. Like, or
yeah.
I mean, like you were, even when you said, I'm going to wake up in the morning and today's going to be a good day. I was thinking like, today I'm going to quit drinking. Today, no more heroin, or like, today, no more eating disorder. And as the day rolls along, not only are you unable to stop, but by the end of the day, it's complete loss of any control.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, like, if you're trying to like access therapy, or, that was the time when I started trying to tell people, like, okay, like, I have a problem. I have an eating disorder. And so that's what you're doing all day. It's like an addict. And that's what it feels. I had terrible urges. I mean, overwhelming urges. I still do. And then you try to talk to somebody about the fact that you have an eating disorder, and you get like, well, why don't you just stop? Like, you don't need to lose weight. Like, it's like, well, it's not a diet. So, that's not the point anymore at all. I mean, that's not what I'm trying to do here. How can you do this to yourself? Like, you're just killing yourself. How can you just, you're just slowly killing yourself. Like, why don't you just stop? Why don't you just stop? It's food. It's food. It's food. Like, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is food. So I have to eat. So it's a problem. Like, it's not something that I can just like say, well, I'm never going to eat again. And so I don't have to worry about it being in my life. I can avoid places where people eat food. Like, I mean, it's, you can't. And so it's that compounds everything because people don't understand. They think you're on a diet, or that you're selfish, and wasteful, especially with like just the amount of waste. Like, yeah, first world problem, huh? Like, yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. Except for that, you know, I mean, I had times where I was literally scrounging change from like the seats of my car or my couch to go to buy food to binge and purge, which is pretty sad. You know, and therapy was really ineffective for me for a long time. so, you know, I mean, it's also, you know, another part of being in the day of the light is like, okay, so I have to like replace this with something. Like, what can I do? And there are no replacements. I mean, I did drink very heavily for a long time also. That certainly didn't make things better.
So it sounds like the two deep levels of aloneness. One is that you're so alone feeling in this eating disorder. And two is even when you try to open up to people, to talk about it, share about it, people completely don't get it. You got a first world problem. Why don't you just eat like a normal person?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I've found that people can talk to you about it with some degree of sympathy, if not empathy. If you can say, well, I had an eating disorder. Well, I used to have an eating disorder. Then, you know, there's a certain level of, well done for making it through that. But if you're in it and you're looking for help from your friends or your family, it's nobody knows what to do because they don't get it, and it's gross. I mean, it's also like kind of repulsive for people to really think about. And so people don't want to talk about it. And you know, I mean, I would ask for help or support or whatever, and people, you know, like, yeah, I'm totally on your team, and then no one would ever say anything again. You know, so it is really lonely. It's like, well, I have to get better on my own by myself, and then I can talk about it and get support that way once it's over. But I have to do the quote unquote recovery part by myself. And that's impossible. So it's an untenable position to be in.
Ellie ended up at a residential treatment center for eating disorders and, to her surprise, was the star pupil, a role model to the younger patients and frequently recognized by the staff as a shining example for others. But, as it became tragically clear, succeeding in a highly structured treatment center was not the same as succeeding in the outside world.
I can remember, like, the family therapist saying things to him like, you've just got to let her express her feelings. Like, she has got a raging bitch goddess in there, and you've got to let her get it out. Like, you know, you have to be supportive of that. I was like, yeah, you have to be supportive of that. And I felt really strong and really powerful. I did not have urges. It was not difficult. Like, I was an A+ student in there, and I was told that when I had my quote unquote graduation or whatever. My therapist actually said to me, you know, if we could just make this a full-time job, like a residential treatment plant, like to be the model like patient, that's you. I mean, it's like your calling, which is pretty sad, but, I felt good about it. I did not have a way to cope with my feelings. Like I had always used my eating disorder as a way to numb out, deal with stress, take up time where time might be sad. And I did not have that available to me. And I had no way to be a feeling person in the world. And I ended up trying to kill myself. Because my eating disorder, I think for a long time had been saving my life and I didn't know it.
After residential treatment and her suicide attempt, Ellie tried to rebuild her life and act as if she were okay, not knowing what else to do.
I ended up meeting a new person through my hairdresser, and I talk about the biggest mismatch in the world. She was like, well, he's from Billings. And I was like, oh, great. And sure, I'll meet him. I love Montanans. And he was every bit of Montana that I am not. And it was like he was riding dirt bikes all the time and all this weird stuff. But he had a traumatic brain injury in a motorcycle race the year before. And so I think we were both just going through a lot. He had a traumatic brain injury. His wife left him while he was in the hospital, like unable to move, basically.
So was it almost like your hairdresser thought, here are the people in the deepest, darkest imaginable hole.
Yeah, maybe. And they grew up right next to one another.
So it's a match made in heaven.
It's a match made in heaven.
Ellie could no longer pretend that her eating disorder might go away on its own. After trying to open up to friends and family over the years and getting nowhere, a new boyfriend helped her get into the treatment she needed.
I started using behaviors again, and the minute that I did, and it was just a complete spiral into the abyss.
So you'd held off the purging. You've been restricting more out of just stress and despair, but as soon as the purging started, it was all over.
Yeah. And it was, it was initially such a relief, to tell you the truth. Like it was like I finally had, and I was like, I just felt like I was myself again. Like I hadn't been anybody for the last few months, and I was now, like I knew who I was again, because all told, again, this is something I think about too. At that point in my life, in the 25 years or whatever, since I was 10, like I had maybe a total of 9 months without behaviors, like 9 months out of decades. And so it really felt like I had restored a part of myself. Like, okay, I know how to do this. Like, this is something, like, I'm good at this. I know how to do all the planning. I know everything that goes into it. No one's ever going to notice.
It's almost like bulimia was your operating system.
Absolutely.
Like that, it was so deeply part of the way you think, feel, and function.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. So I did tell my partner that, I was struggling with eating disorder behaviors. And I... this is pretty funny, honestly. So, I said to him, like, we were at a restaurant and I said, I really need to tell you something. And he was like, okay, what's going on? I said, I'm bulimic. And he was like, oh, okay. Well, no big deal. My brother was had a short prison term, a couple years ago. And yeah, he had it in there. Tons of people had it in there. And I was like, what? Wait, what? Like, what? Bulimia is like a thing in prison? And I was like, what? Wait a minute. What do you think I said to you? And he's like, you're anemic, right? Well, probably, but no, like I can't. That sums up so much of our communication, actually. But what happened as a result of that? I mean, he was really concerned, and so he found a place in Fort Collins that specialized in eating disorders. And he called them. So he did a lot of the same stuff that my best friend had done a few years before. And, he said, you don't have to go, there's like a consultation thing. Just like try that. You don't have to do anything else. And so I went there and I really felt like I did when I saw that counselor in 8th grade, like I was sitting there like slouched in the chair with like my hair in my face, and this woman walks in and, you like really, there's so much healing that happens. We have this group, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I am beyond help, lady. I don't think you understand what we're talking about. I'm not like your stereotypical college kid. I'm not the movie version of the bully. This is who I am. I am no one without this, and I know that because I've tried being without this, and there's no one there. So
today, after almost 30 years of battling bulimia, Ellie has been able to put some distance between herself and her eating disorder. She still struggles, often painfully, but she's also found joy and purpose and a growing sense of peace with food and body image.
I have not engaged in behaviors for about 6 months, and
by that you mean purging?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
And before that, it had been a few months, and before that it had been a few months. So I feel like, I'm never, I don't really, subscribe to the word recovery, or the idea that you recover, because I'm not really interested in covering the person that I was however many years ago. I'm more interested in who I am now and moving forward. And I know there's not an end to, like, your eating disorder is never over. But it is not a focus in my life. I have I would say like whole weeks go by when I don't have the urge to purge. I'm married. I just got married in December. I have a 12-year-old stepson. And they're both awesome. I have a dog who's awesome. The building blocks of my life, like the basic bricks of my life, are really good. I feel really lucky to have what I have now. I'm on medication. I'm regularly in therapy. I also take ketamine, which has been a real game changer, I think, for me in terms of some of the underlying roots of my problems, like just depression that doesn't go away. Mm-hmm. So things aren't perfect, of course, but I have a lot of agency in my own life. I'm able to stand up for myself when I need to, for the most part, and that's really great. And I still, when I think about the idea of like the darkness, I always have a foot in the darkness. It's my natural orientation, I think, but it's a place that I understand now that it's a place. It's not me. And that's a real difference, I think, because like it's okay that I live there part of the time, because I also live like out in the sunshine with, like green, beautiful, like life everywhere. And that's okay. I can hold that balance, where I think for most of my life, I would say it was the reverse.
I'm guessing it was the long and complicated journey from 4 or 5 years ago when you were sitting in that treatment center office in Fort Collins, and as you told us just before, thinking basically, I'm kind of a hopeless case. This is what I do. I am my eating disorder. And I'm wondering if you could just outline maybe the highlights, the key insights, treatment. Like if you had to distill out what were the most important pieces that got you from that person to where you are today.
Sure. So, as I mentioned before, I am really good at treatment. If it's like big, like not just going to see a therapist weekly and whatnot. So the minute that I signed up to go into what was IOP, so it's intensive outpatient treatment. So I would go 3 nights a week for 4 hours. And then I would see my therapist and a nutritionist also that same week. And the minute that I got in, I stopped using behaviors. I had some of the tenets were the same, in that I was definitely one of the older folks in there, but not the oldest. There are a lot of young women, and I think I felt really accountable to them, because there was so much pain in that space, and I did not want to do anything that contributed to that pain. So I really thought that, well, what that means then is I'm the model patient, right? Like, so I'm going to be really supportive. I'm going to ask good questions. And as time went on, I mean, because it's like a 6-month process, and when I had been in residential, that was 6 weeks. So this is 6 months. And about 2 months in, I was fully back in the abyss. I mean, I was thinking about suicide all the time. I was crying all the time. I couldn't do anything. And I think at that point, my therapist, I think, helped me make the connection that that's what my eating disorder does. Like, if I don't have my eating disorder, then this is what I get, because I don't have any other way to cope, right? And so she kept telling me, like, it's it's cliche, but like, you've got to trust the process. You've got to trust the process. Hang on. You have to share in group. And that is what I did not do, I think, when I was in residential. Like, I did not want to be, and I wanted to be the A student. I don't want things to be messy and complicated. And so I would have to sit in that group with people asking me really hard questions and like not being able to talk, like being a mess and sobbing and being angry. And I was so embarrassed and ashamed that I couldn't keep myself together. But the point, I think, was not keeping myself together, and just being able to be in it in a supported space. She also connected me with my psychiatrist, and that helped so much. Oh my God. Because I was trying to tolerate the despair, but I was living in a space of just barely tolerating things. And he was able to work with me to find the right combination of medication, which was really something, because I remember that first meeting with him, and he kept asking me like, well, have you been on this? Have you been on that? Have you been on this? Have you been on that? I was like, yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Nope. That one gave me night terrors. Mm-hmm. Yep. No, that one made me yawn all the time, and I had dry mouth. No, that one made me insane. I felt like, which was the same thing, see, there's nothing. And then he asked me if I had been on this one medication, Wellbutrin, which they don't generally let you have if you have bulimia, because it can induce seizures or something. And it's a bad deal. If you're actively in behaviors, you should not take Wellbutrin. But I wasn't actively in behaviors. And so I started taking Wellbutrin, and that was a marked shift. I certainly wasn't a bright and bushy-tailed new person, but I was not suicidal, and that was a really great feeling. And I guess I learned to be like that. I really had to be vulnerable, and I didn't have a choice but to be vulnerable, because of where I was at in the process.
Even after her 6 months of intensive outpatient therapy, ongoing weekly therapy with an eating disorder specialist, and daily medication, Ellie's depression and sense of overwhelm returned. Fortunately, she had a powerful response to ketamine and has continued to do maintenance treatments monthly.
I don't know what I would do without it at this point in my life. Maybe in the future, who knows? But that it has really provided a space for me to reset and it's quiet in my mind in a way. When I say I have one foot in the darkness, one of the ways that manifests is that I just have this constant narrative in my head of things that's just appalling. It's so dark, and I can't turn it off. When it's going, it's just going. I'm at work, maybe I'm giving a presentation, and in the back of my mind, it's, maybe somebody murdered your mother. Your mom might be dead in her house right now. And you're just sitting here doing that. What if your sister fell off, and that I had thought was just something I was always going to have to live with. And with ketamine, I don't have to live with that. And that has so improved my quality of life overall that if I'm having random thoughts, they're usually more philosophical and esoteric. It's not what tragedy has befallen us now. And so that's been
You're doing maintenance treatments?
I am. Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. My meds have not changed in years, and that's crazy. It used to be with everybody, with each new therapist, with each new doctor, it's well, we'll just throw this at you, and see what sticks. But you have to wait 4 weeks, and then we'll reassess from there. So if you're miserable, you're just miserable, and we'll see what happens. It's exhausting. So the idea that I have not had that experience for years is pretty awesome, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It feels really good. Yeah.
What are the take-home messages from Ellie's story? Ellie started the path to healing when she began to do the work of building a new self, a self separate from the deeply wired-in operating system of her eating disorder. To do this, she needed eating disorder specialists. She needed to start to open up about everything she absolutely did not want to open up about. And she found significant relief with the right medications and with ketamine. And even still, for Ellie, it's a day-to-day affair. Ellie reminded us that she still has one foot in the darkness, but I can assure all of you, after I sat with her today, most of her is bathed in the light. If you like this episode, please share it with anyone else who might find hope or meaning in this story. Check out our website, bftapodcast.com, where you can learn more about us and this project, get more information on the treatments mentioned in the stories, as well as additional resources and music credits. You can also email us with comments or story requests. If you have time, please rate us on iTunes, as this helps us spread these stories far and wide. Much gratitude to my good friend Chris Johnson, who does our sound, and thank you for listening to Back from the Abyss. May each of you find the strength and support to find your way through the darkness.